I'm starting to fall in love with my husband, and I don't know how to deal with it. We got married for a green card. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. Mateo needed to stay in the country to finish med school. I was broke and desperate to split rent in San Francisco, where even studio apartments cost more than my monthly salary. My roommate Ben suggested his girlfriend's friend, who was facing deportation. He's clean, quiet, and desperate, she said. Perfect match for your situation. We met at a Mission District Starbucks on a Tuesday. He was already there when I arrived, hunched over thick medical textbooks, highlighter marks all over his hands. The dark circles under his eyes told me he'd been pulling all-nighters. When I sat down, he looked up and said, "You must be the woman who needs a husband." Straight to business. I liked that. We talked for exactly 47 minutes. He needed legal status to avoid losing his medical school spot 3 months before graduation. I needed someone to help cover my $2,500 rent. We both needed to convince immigration we were legit. He had no criminal record. I had good credit, perfect strangers entering a contract. The wedding was just us and 2 witnesses at City Hall on a Thursday morning. I wore my only decent dress. He wore a button-up shirt that still had the fold creases in it. We exchanged rings from a convenience store, took an awkward selfie for immigration files, and shook hands afterward like we just closed a business deal. Our apartment became a study and polite coexistence. He claimed the living room as his study space, medical textbooks creating fortress walls around him. I worked double shifts at a tech startup, coming home exhausted while he was already deep in flashcards. We'd pass each other in our tiny kitchen, maybe say good morning, share the coffee maker, and carefully rotate schedules. For 6 months, we were like the world's most courteous strangers. He studied 18 hours a day, surviving on instant ramen and sheer determination. I worked 70-hour weeks trying to prove myself at a company that treated junior developers like disposable coffee filters. We developed a rhythm of avoidance that somehow worked. I'd leave him dinner leftovers in the fridge. He'd buy my preferred coffee creamer without being asked. Then my mom had a massive heart attack. I got the call at 2 a.m. from my sister, crying so hard I could barely understand her. "She's in the ICU. You need to come home now." I collapsed in our hallway, phone still in my hand, making sounds I didn't recognize as my own voice. Mateo found me there 20 minutes later, coming back from a late library session. He didn't ask questions, didn't comment on how pathetic I looked. He just sat next to me on the floor and held my hand while I fell apart. His thumb traced small circles on my knuckles while I tried to explain through broken sentences that my mom might die and I couldn't afford the plane ticket home to Chicago. He drove me to the airport in his beat-up Honda at 4 o'clock a.m., waited with me until my flight boarded. Then he pressed $200 cash into my hand. "For whatever you need," he said quietly. When I came back a week later, drained and grieving but grateful my mom had survived, the fridge was full. Meal prepped containers stacked neatly, little notes stuck to each one. "Heat for 3 minutes, add hot sauce, your favorite chicken teriyaki." He'd also somehow paid our full rent while I was gone. Something shifted after that. He started asking about my day when I got home. I began making enough dinner for 2 without discussing it. He'd fall asleep on the couch studying, and I'd cover him with a blanket. I started staying up later just to share the kitchen with him during his midnight snack breaks. 3 months ago, he passed his medical boards. I surprised him with champagne I couldn't really afford, and when he hugged me in celebration, the way he looked at me had changed completely. Not like a roommate, not like a business partner, like someone who actually saw me. Last week, he got matched to a residency program at Johns Hopkins. His visa's been approved. He doesn't need me anymore. The green card came through. He's officially legal, officially free, officially able to start his real life. Yesterday, I congratulated him on the match, trying to keep my voice steady while silently calculating how I'd afford rent alone. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the acceptance letter. Finally, he looked up and said, "What if I don't want to go alone? What if I want to figure out what we actually are?" Now we're sitting in our kitchen, staring at each other across our tiny table, realizing our fake marriage might be the most real thing either of us has ever had.